They say the forest remembers everything, every footstep, every whispered prayer, every drop of blood spilled beneath its ancient canopy. I never believed in such stories, until the night I saved 3 wolves from iron traps, and discovered they were never wolves at all. My name is Alara Thorne, and this is the story of how I became something I never imagined. How I fell in love with a king who could tear me apart with a single touch, and how I learned that destiny doesn't ask permission, it simply claims you. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the rest of my journey, and join others who are captivated by forbidden love, dark secrets, and werewolf romance. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the night everything changed. Chapter 1. The Bleeding Moon. The autumn wind carried the scent of dying leaves and something else. Something metallic and wrong. I'd been gathering nightshade and moonwort deep in the thornwood, far beyond where the village women dared to venture, when I heard it. A sound that made my blood turn cold. Not a howl. Not quite. It was deeper than that, more primal. A sound that spoke of agony and rage intertwined, echoing through the darkness like a curse given voice. I should have run. Any sensible woman would have. The thornwood was forbidden territory after sunset, and for good reason. Travelers disappeared here. Hunters never returned. The village elders spoke in hushed tones of ancient things that dwelled in these shadows. Creatures from the old world, before mankind claimed dominion over the earth. But I had never been particularly sensible. My grandmother used to say I had too much fire in my veins and not enough fear in my heart. She was right, though she'd been dead 3 winters now, taken by the same fever that claimed half our village. Since then I'd been alone. The village healer, they called me, though they whispered other names too. Witch. Odd one. The girl who talked to shadows. Let them whisper. I moved through the forest like water, my worn leather boots silent on the moss-covered ground. The sound came again, closer now, wet and desperate. And beneath it, I heard something that shouldn't have been possible. Words, fragmented, distorted, but unmistakably human. Please. My hands tightened around the strap of my gathering basket. The logical part of my mind screamed at me to turn back, to run toward the safety of the village with its warm hearths and locked doors. But something stronger pulled me forward, a thread of fate, invisible and unbreakable, drawing me deeper into the darkness. The trees opened into a small clearing, and that's when I saw them. 3 wolves. Massive, far larger than any wolf had a right to be. They were caught in iron traps, the kind the king's hunters used for bears, cruel things, with teeth that bit deep and held fast, blood pooled beneath them, black in the moonlight. The largest of the 3, a beast with fur like midnight and eyes that burned like molten gold, stared directly at me. And in those eyes, I saw something that stopped my heart. Intelligence. Recognition. And something that looked dangerously close to hope. Merciful gods, I whispered. The wolf's lips pulled back, but not in a snarl. It was trying to speak. The sound that emerged was tortured, caught between human and animal, and utterly heartbreaking. Help. Us. I didn't think. Thinking would have paralyzed me. Instead, I dropped to my knees beside the largest wolf, my hands already reaching for the trap's release mechanism. The metal was cold and slick with blood. My fingers slipped once, twice. Hold still, I murmured, as if speaking to an injured child rather than a predator that could tear my throat out. I'll free you. Just hold still. The wolf's golden eyes never left my face. There was something ancient in that gaze. Something that made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced before. As if this creature could look straight through flesh and bone into the very core of who I was. The trap released with a sickening click. The wolf lurched free, blood streaming from the wound on its leg. It should have fled, should have disappeared into the forest to tend its wounds. Instead, it limped toward the others. I understood. Family, pack, whatever they were, they belonged to each other. The second wolf was smaller, its fur a rich auburn that reminded me of autumn leaves. The third was silver white, ethereal as moonlight on water. Both watched me with that same unnerving intelligence as I worked to free them, my dress soaking up their blood, my hands trembling from more than just the cold. When the last trap fell away, I sat back on my heels, breathing hard. "You need to go," I said softly. "The hunters will be back at dawn. If they find you—" The black wolf moved closer. So close I could feel the heat radiating from its body, could smell the wild scent of forest and smoke and something indefinably other. It lowered its massive head, and for one impossible moment, its forehead touched mine. The world exploded into light. Images cascaded through my mind like a waterfall of memories that weren't mine. A palace of white stone, thrones carved from ancient oak, a crown of thorns and starlight, battles fought under blood-red skies, and faces, dozens of faces, shifting between human and wolf, caught in an endless transformation. Then, a voice. Deep, commanding, resonating in my bones like the call of distant thunder. "We will not forget this, healer. When the moon calls you home, we will come." I jerked back, gasping. The wolves were already disappearing into the shadows, moving with impossible speed despite their injuries. In seconds they were gone, leaving only blood and broken traps and the echo of that impossible voice in my head. I knelt there in the clearing, shaking, as the first light of dawn began to paint the eastern sky. I had no idea that I'd just sealed my fate. No idea that in 3 days' time, everything I knew would burn to ash. No idea that the creature whose life I'd saved was no mere wolf, but Kale Shadowborn, High King of the Thornborn realm, ruler of all shifter kind, and he had just decided I belonged to him. Chapter 2. The Mark of the Moony told no one about the wolves. Who would believe me? That I'd ventured deep into the thornwood after dark? That I'd freed 3 massive wolves from the king's traps? That one of them had spoken to me, touched my mind with thoughts that weren't my own? They'd call me mad, or worse, they'd call the priest. Father Donovan already looked at me with suspicion, convinced that my healing gifts came from some dark pact rather than my grandmother's teachings. One more strange tale, and he'd have the villagers driving me out, or worse, lighting pyres in the town square. So I kept silent. I cleaned the blood from beneath my fingernails, burned my ruined dress, and tried to forget the feeling of that wolf's gaze burning through my soul, but I couldn't forget. The memory haunted me like a fever dream. 3 days passed. 3 days of grinding herbs and tending to the sick, of pretending everything was normal while that voice echoed in the back of my mind. When the moon calls you home, we will come. What did it mean? Home? This village had been my home for all my 23 years. I had no other, or so I thought. On the 3rd night, I woke to silver moonlight flooding my small cottage, so bright it hurt to look at. The air tasted of ozone and wild things. Every instinct I possessed screamed danger, but I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. A shadow detached itself from the darkness by my window. Then another. Then another. 3 figures, tall and imposing, wreathed in moonlight and impossibility. They were human-shaped but wrong. Too graceful, too powerful. Their eyes gleamed in the darkness, gold, amber, and silver white. The tallest stepped forward, and my breath caught. He was devastating. Not handsome in the way of village boys or traveling merchants. This was something beyond human beauty. Sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, a mouth carved for cruelty and kissing in equal measure, black hair that fell past his shoulders like a waterfall of midnight, and those eyes, those burning gold eyes that I'd seen before, staring at me from a wolf's face in a moonlit clearing. He was bare-chested, and his skin was marked with scars. Not the rough, crude scars of common violence, but elegant silver lines that traced across his chest and arms like a map written in an ancient language. They seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "Hello, little healer," he said. And that voice, God's, that voice. It was the same one that had echoed through my mind 3 days ago. Rich and dark as aged wine, with an accent I couldn't place. "Did you think we'd forgotten?" I sat up slowly, pulling my thin blanket up to my chest. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced my voice to remain steady. "Who are you?" His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You know who I am. Your soul recognized mine the moment you touched me. I felt it. That's impossible. Is it?" He moved closer, and I realized he wasn't walking. He was gliding, his bare feet making no sound on my wooden floor. "You freed us. You shed your own blood to save ours. You spoke to us as equals, not as monsters. You saw us, Alara Thorne. Truly saw us." The sound of my name on his lips sent electricity down my spine. "How do you—" "I know everything about you," he interrupted softly. "Your name, your gift. The loneliness that haunts you like a second shadow. I've been in your mind, remember? I've tasted your thoughts, felt your dreams. You're different from the others. Special. And you belong with us. I belong to no one." The words came out sharper than I intended, fueled by sudden anger at his presumption. "I don't know what you think gives you the right—" "This gives me the right." He moved with inhuman speed. One moment he was across the room. The next, he was beside my bed, his hand wrapped around my wrist. His skin was fever-hot against mine, and where our flesh met, silver light flared. I gasped. Pain and pleasure lanced through me in equal measure, burning up my arm and spreading through my chest like wildfire. When he released me, a mark remained on my skin, a circular symbol that looked like a crescent moon wrapped around a thorned crown. "What did you do?" I demanded, staring at the mark in horror and fascination. It didn't hurt anymore, but I could feel it. A constant warmth, a presence that hadn't been there before. "I claimed you," he said simply. 3 days ago, you became ours the moment you chose to save us rather than run. This mark is merely a formality, a declaration. You are under the protection of the Thornborn Court now. No harm may come to you, and in 30 days, when the harvest moon rises full, you will join us in the eternal forest. You will take your place among our people. I will do no such thing. I scrambled out of bed, putting distance between us. You can't just barge into my home, mark me like cattle, and expect me to what? Abandon everything I know? Run off into the forest with strangers? We're not strangers. The auburn-haired figure spoke for the first time, a woman's voice, rich and warm. She stepped into the moonlight, and I saw she was breathtaking, with wild, russet hair and amber eyes that danced with mischief. "I'm Sarah. The Silver One is my brother Thane, and the brooding tyrant who just claimed you is Kale. We're your pack now." "I don't have a pack." "I'm human. Are you?" Thane spoke now, his voice softer than his siblings, almost melodic. He was slender where Kale was broad, ethereal where Kale was commanding, with silver hair and those haunting white gold eyes. "Fully human, Alara? Are you certain? Because no fully human woman could have walked through the thornwood at night without being torn apart by the wards. No fully human woman could have seen us for what we truly are. And no fully human woman could bear the Alpha's mark without it consuming her entirely." I looked down at the mark on my wrist. It pulsed gently, warm and alive as if it had its own heartbeat. "What are you saying?" Kale moved closer again, and this time I didn't retreat. Something in me wouldn't allow it. Some new instinct that recognized him, that wanted to be near him despite every rational thought screaming that this was madness. "I'm saying," he murmured, so close now I could feel his breath on my skin, "that you're one of us, little healer. You've always been one of us. Your grandmother knew. That's why she taught you the old ways, the forgotten healing arts that belong to our kind. That's why you've never quite fit in this human village. You were never meant to. You're lying." "Am I?" His hand came up, not touching me, but hovering just inches from my cheek. "Then explain why your heart is racing, why you haven't screamed for help, why every instinct you possess is telling you that I'm speaking the truth." I couldn't explain it, because he was right. Every word he spoke resonated deep in my bones, awakening something I'd spent my entire life trying to ignore. The way I'd always felt different. The way animals followed me through the forest. The way I could sense sickness in others before it manifested. The dreams I'd had since childhood. Dreams of running through moonlit forests on 4 legs instead of 2. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. Kale's eyes softened just slightly. Everything, he said. Your truth. Your power. Your presence at my side. I'm the High King of the Thornborn realm, Ilara. I've ruled for 200 years. I've seen empires rise and fall. I've loved and lost and learned to never hope for more. And then you appeared in that clearing, covered in our blood, offering salvation without asking for anything in return. You marked my soul that night. Fair is fair. Now I've marked yours. This is insane. Yes, he agreed. Completely insane, but also inevitable. You'll see. In time you'll understand. 30 days, Ilara. We've given you 30 days to settle your affairs, to say your goodbyes. Then when the harvest moon rises, we'll return, and you'll come with us. Not as a prisoner, not as a slave, but as one of us, as mine. And if I refuse? Something dangerous flickered in those golden eyes. You won't. Before I could respond, the three of them began to change. Their human forms melted like wax, bones reshaping, fur sprouting, until 3 massive wolves stood in my small cottage, black, auburn, and silver white. The black wolf, Kale, locked eyes with me one last time. Then they leaped through my window, shattering it into 1,000 pieces, and disappeared into the night. I stood alone in the moonlight, shaking, my cottage destroyed, my world upended, and the mark on my wrist burned like a brand, like a promise, like a curse. 30 days. Chapter 3. The Unraveling. The village noticed the change immediately. How could they not? The shattered window. The silver mark on my wrist that no amount of sleeves could completely hide. The way my eyes would drift toward the forest at twilight, as if listening to music only I could hear. But it was more than that. I was changing. My senses sharpened with each passing day. I could smell rain coming 3 days before it arrived. I could hear conversations from across the village square. At night, I dreamed of running, not as myself, but as something wild and free, with paws instead of feet and the wind singing through my fur. The mark on my wrist pulsed constantly now, a warm presence that never faded. Sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, I would press my fingers to it and feel. Him, Kale, a distant awareness, like a candle flame in the darkness. I could sense his presence somewhere in the thornwood, could feel the steady beat of his heart as if it echoed my own. It should have terrified me. Instead, I found it strangely comforting. Father Donovan came on the 7th day. He stood in my cottage doorway, his weathered face etched with concern and suspicion in equal measure. The villagers are talking, Ilara, he said without preamble. They say you've been marked by something unholy, that you venture into the thornwood at night, that you've been seen speaking to shadows. I met his gaze steadily while grinding herbs for a poultice. And do you believe village gossip, Father? I believe my own eyes. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Show me your wrist. For a long moment, I considered refusing. But what would be the point? He'd find out eventually. Everyone would. I set down my pestle and pulled back my sleeve. Father Donovan's face went pale. His hand moved instinctively to the holy symbol around his neck. Dear God in heaven, it's true. You bear the mark of the cursed ones, the wolf kind. They're not cursed, I said quietly. They're just different. Different? His voice rose, tinged with genuine fear. Child, do you have any idea what you've done? The shifters are abominations, creatures of the old magic, the dark magic that existed before the church brought light to these lands. They're dangerous, savage. They kill without mercy, take what they want, and answer to no law but their own. And now you bear their mark. You've been claimed by their king. How do you know about their king? The priest's expression turned grim. Because he's been here before, 50 years ago, during my grandfather's time. The Shadowborn King came to our village seeking something, or someone. When he didn't find what he wanted, He killed 7 men and burned half the village to ash. We rebuilt. We survived. But we never forgot. The stories have been passed down through the priesthood, warnings to keep our people away from the Thornwood, away from the shifters and their cursed realm. And now you, foolish girl, you've invited that monster back into our lives. I felt anger flare hot in my chest. He's not a monster. He saved my life. He marked you, claimed you as his possession. No. I stood, facing him fully. He recognized me. There's a difference. Father Donovan stared at me as if seeing a stranger. They've bewitched you, turned your mind against your own kind. Ilara, listen to me carefully. There's still time. We can perform a cleansing ritual. The old texts speak of ways to break a shifter's claim, to purge their corruption from your soul. It will be painful, but no. The word came out harder than I intended, echoing with a force that seemed to shake the very air. Father Donovan stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock. I said no. I repeated, more softly this time. I appreciate your concern, Father, truly, but I'm not corrupted. I'm not bewitched. I'm finally becoming what I was always meant to be. And I won't let you or anyone else take that from me. Then you're choosing them over us? Over your own people? I thought about that. About the villagers who whispered behind my back. About the mothers who clutched their children closer when I passed. About the loneliness that had been my constant companion for as long as I could remember. These people have never been my own, I said quietly. I've lived here all my life, and I've always been an outsider. The strange girl, the witch, the one who's different. Maybe it's time I stopped pretending otherwise. Father Donovan's expression hardened. Then you leave me no choice. I'll convene the village council. They need to know what's happening, what you're becoming. For the safety of everyone, you'll need to leave, before the next full moon. I'd already planned to, I said. The harvest moon rises in 23 days. I'll be gone by then. And if the Shadowborn King comes for you before that? I smiled, though there was no humor in it. Then I suggest you stay out of his way. The priest left without another word, and I knew my days in the village were numbered. But I didn't care. Because that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I felt him again. Kyle. His presence was stronger now, more insistent, as if the walls between us were thinning. I closed my eyes and reached out with something deeper than thought, deeper than words. And he answered. Not with language, with feeling, with images that flooded my mind like a waking dream. I saw him standing on a cliff edge, wind whipping his dark hair, the moonlight painting his bare skin silver. He was looking toward the human lands, toward me, and the longing in his expression was so raw it made my chest ache. He missed me, this impossible, powerful, terrifying king. He missed me, and God's help me, I missed him too. Soon, his voice whispered through my thoughts. Hold on, little healer. Soon. I pressed my fingers to the mark on my wrist and let that warmth flow through me, chasing away the loneliness like sunlight burning through morning fog. 23 days felt like an eternity. But I would wait. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Chapter 4. The Price of Protection. They came for me on the 14th night, not the shifters. The villagers. I'd been naive to think Father Donovan would simply let me wait out my time in peace. Fear makes people dangerous, and the village was drowning in it. Fear of the old magic, fear of the shifters, fear of what my presence might bring down upon them. The pounding on my door woke me from a dream of running through moonlit forests. For a moment I was disoriented, caught between two worlds, the wild freedom of my dreams and the harsh reality of my cottage. Ilara Thorne, Open this door! I recognized the voice. Marcus Brennan, the village blacksmith. A hard man, made harder by the loss of his wife to sickness last winter. I'd tried to save her. Spent 3 days at her bedside mixing remedies and speaking prayers. But in the end, it hadn't been enough. He'd never forgiven me for that. I pulled on my robe and opened the door. Marcus stood there with 6 other men, all carrying torches. Their faces were grim, set with the kind of terrible determination that comes from righteousness mixed with fear. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "You can leave," Marcus said flatly. "Tonight now. Take your things and go. The council has decided it's too dangerous to wait for the full moon. Whatever darkness you've invited into your soul, we won't have it threatening our families." "I've threatened no one. You bear the mark of monsters." The shout came from behind Marcus. Young Thomas Miller, barely 18, his face flushed with fear and excitement. "Father Donovan told us everything. You've been claimed by the Shadow-born King. He'll come for you, and when he does, he'll destroy us all just like he did 50 years ago." "That's not—" I started, but Marcus cut me off. "We don't want to hurt you, Alara. You were one of us once. But you've made your choice. Now you need to live with the consequences. Pack what you can carry. You have until dawn to be gone from our lands." I looked at their faces. These men I'd known my entire life. Men whose children I'd helped birth, whose wounds I'd tended, whose fevers I'd broken with my remedies. Not one of them met my eyes. "Fine," I said quietly. "I'll leave. But understand this. When your children fall sick, when your wives struggle in childbirth, when injuries fester and fevers burn, don't come looking for me. I offered you my gifts freely for 23 years. No longer." Some of the men shifted uncomfortably, but Marcus's expression remained hard. "We'll manage. We always have." I doubted that, but I didn't argue. "What would be the point?" I closed the door in their faces and began to pack. There wasn't much. My grandmother's herb journals, a few changes of clothes, the small knife she'd given me on my 13th birthday, its handle carved with protective symbols, some dried food, a water skin. The life I'd built here could fit into a single leather pack. Somehow, that seemed fitting. I was cinching the pack closed when I felt it. A sudden pulse from the mark on my wrist, stronger than ever before. It burned hot, almost painful, and with it came a wave of pure rage that wasn't my own. Cale knew. Somehow, across the miles that separated us, he knew what was happening. I pressed my hand to the mark, trying to send reassurance through whatever connection we shared. "I'm fine," I thought desperately. "I can handle this." "Don't—" The window exploded inward. Glass shattered across my floor as a massive black wolf landed in my cottage. Its lips pulled back in a snarl that would haunt my nightmares. Those golden eyes found me immediately, scanning me from head to toe as if checking for injuries. Then he turned toward the door, and I realized the men were still outside. "No!" I threw myself between the wolf and the door. "Cale, don't. Please, they're just afraid. They don't understand." The wolf's growl was a physical thing, vibrating through the air, through the floor, through my very bones. He was magnificent and terrifying, easily twice the size of any natural wolf, his midnight fur seeming to absorb the lamplight. I placed my hands on either side of his massive head, forcing him to look at me. "I'm fine, see? Not hurt, just leaving earlier than planned. That's all. You don't need to hurt anyone." For a long moment we stared at each other. Then slowly, the rage in his eyes banked to a simmer. His form began to shift, bones cracking and reforming, fur receding to reveal skin. In seconds, a man knelt before me instead of a wolf. Naked, powerful, and still radiating barely contained violence. "They threatened you," he said, his voice rough. "I felt your fear, your pain. I'm not hurt. You will be if you stay here." He stood in one fluid motion, completely unself-conscious about his nudity. I should tear them apart for even thinking. "You'll do no such thing." I grabbed his arm, feeling the tension in his muscles, the way his whole body vibrated with the need for vengeance. Kale, listen to me. This isn't their fault. They're just people, trying to protect their families the only way they know how. Killing them would make you exactly the monster they think you are. I am a monster, he said softly, dangerously. I've killed for far less than threatening what's mine. I'm not a thing to be possessed. No. His hand came up, fingers trailing along my jaw with unexpected gentleness. You're so much more than that. You're my fated mate, Alara, my soulbound, the other half of everything I am, and these foolish humans just try to drive you out into the night alone. Do you have any idea what could happen to you out there? The Thornwood is home to more than just my kind. There are things in those forests that would devour you before you could scream. I hadn't thought of that. In my anger and hurt, I'd simply planned to start walking, to find shelter where I could, to survive until the harvest moon. Stupid. Reckless. Potentially fatal. Then take me with you, I said. Now, tonight. Why wait for the full moon? Something flickered in his golden eyes. Because you need time to grieve what you're leaving behind, to prepare for what you're becoming. The transformation isn't just physical, little healer. It's spiritual. It changes everything about who you are. I wanted to give you these last days to make peace with your humanity before you embrace your true nature. My humanity cast me out, I said bitterly. There's nothing here to grieve. You say that now, but you'll regret it if you don't say proper goodbyes. Trust me, I know something about regret. There was a story there I could tell, pain in his voice that spoke of losses too deep for words. But before I could ask, voices rose outside. What was that noise? The door's still closed, but I heard something. Should we break it down? Kale's expression hardened again. Apparently your villagers have a death wish. I made a decision then, quick and probably foolish, but it felt right. Take me somewhere safe. Just for tonight. Let them think I've gone. In the morning, I'll come back. Gather the rest of my grandmother's journals. Say my goodbyes to those who deserve them. Then I'm yours. Completely. No waiting for the moon. You're already mine, he corrected. But yes, I can do that. He moved to the window, pieces of broken glass crunching under his bare feet, though he didn't seem to notice or care. Then he looked back at me, extending his hand. Come, little healer. Let me show you the world you were always meant to inhabit. I took his hand. The moment our skin touched, power surged between us, a circuit completing, two halves of a whole finally connecting. My mark blazed silver bright, and I gasped as I felt everything he felt. His fierce protectiveness, his burning need, his absolute certainty that I belonged with him. And underneath it all, something softer, something that terrified him even as it compelled him. Love. He was falling in love with me. Might have already fallen, that night in the clearing when I'd freed him from the trap, choosing mercy over fear. Hold on, he whispered. Then he jumped. We flew through the night air, impossibly high, impossibly far. I should have screamed, should have been terrified. Instead I laughed, a wild, reckless sound I'd never made before. The wind whipped my hair back, the stars burned overhead, and Kale held me against his chest as if I were something precious, something worth protecting against the whole world. We landed in a forest glade I'd never seen before, where moonlight painted everything silver and the air hummed with ancient magic. A small cabin stood at the edge of a crystalline stream, smoke curling from its chimney. This is one of my safe houses, Kyle said, setting me gently on my feet. You'll be comfortable here, protected, and in the morning I'll take you back to collect whatever you need. You're leaving? I couldn't keep the disappointment from my voice. His smile was small, almost sad. If I stay, I'll never let you go again. And you need that time, Alara. Those goodbyes, that closure, even if you think you don't. So yes, I'm leaving. But Sarah and Thane are close by. They'll watch over you, keep you safe. He stepped toward the forest, his body already beginning to shift. Kale? He paused, looking back. Thank you, I said softly. For coming. For protecting me. For all of this. His eyes glowed in the darkness. Always, he said. For you, little healer, always. Then he was gone, a shadow melting into shadows, leaving me alone in a magical glade with a cabin that shouldn't exist and a heart that beat too fast in my chest. I looked down at the mark on my wrist. It pulsed steadily, warm and bright, like a promise, like a bond, like forever. Chapter 5. The Last Goodbye. Morning came with birdsong and golden light filtering through trees that seemed to sing with their own inner radiance. I woke in the cabin's single bed, wrapped in furs that smelled of forest and smoke, and for a moment forgot where I was. Then memory returned in a rush. The villagers, the threats, Kale's rescue, this impossible place between worlds. I rose and found clothes laid out for me, supple leather pants and a tunic of deep green that fit as if made for my measurements. Beside them, a note in elegant handwriting. Wear these. Your human clothes won't survive where you're going. So, Sarah, I assumed. I dressed quickly, marveling at how the leather moved like a second skin, how the fabric breathed and shifted with my body. These weren't clothes made by human hands. Outside, I found Thane waiting by the stream. In daylight, he was even more ethereal than I remembered. Tall and lean, with that silver-white hair falling past his shoulders and eyes like winter frost. "Good morning," he said, his voice soft. "Kale asked us to return you to your village when you're ready." "Are you? Was I?" I thought about what I needed to do. Retrieve my grandmother's most precious journals, the ones with secrets too dangerous to leave behind. Say goodbye to the few souls who'd shown me genuine kindness over the years. Close this chapter of my life properly, so I could open the next without looking back. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." Thane studied me with those unsettling pale eyes. "You're braver than most humans. Most would be terrified, faced with what you're about to become." Should I be terrified? Perhaps. He smiled slightly. "But I don't think fear is in your nature, Alara Thorne. I think that's why Kale is so drawn to you. He spent 2 centuries surrounded by those who fear him. You look at him and see possibility instead." Before I could respond, Sarah emerged from the forest, her auburn hair wild and glorious in the morning light. "Ready to face the humans one last time? I'd offer to come with you, but I might lose my temper and eat someone. They were appallingly rude last night." Despite everything, I laughed. "Best you stay here, then." "Probably wise." She winked. "Go, say your goodbyes. But don't take too long. Kale is absolutely insufferable when you're not nearby. He keeps pacing and growling and generally making life miserable for the rest of us. The sooner you two complete the bond, the sooner we can all have peace." Heat flooded my cheeks. "Complete the bond?" Her smile turned knowing. "Oh, you sweet innocent thing. Yes, complete the bond. The mark is just the beginning. True mating requires—" She trailed off, her grin wicked. "Well, you'll find out soon enough." Thane cleared his throat. "Sarah, you're making her uncomfortable. I'm educating her. There's a difference." There really isn't. They bickered like actual siblings as Thane led me through the forest, following paths I couldn't see but that he navigated with perfect confidence. Within an hour, we emerged from the thornwood at a point just beyond the village boundaries. "We'll wait here," Thane said. "If you need us, just call. We'll hear you." I nodded and started walking toward the village, my new clothes earning stares from the few early risers already about their business. Old Marta, who sold bread from her cottage window, actually crossed herself when she saw me. Word had spread quickly, it seemed. My cottage was exactly as I'd left it. Door still closed, window still shattered, the scattered glass catching the morning light like diamonds. I pushed inside and began gathering what mattered. My grandmother's journals carefully wrapped in oilcloth, the dried herbs I'd need for the journey, a few small mementos, a carved wooden bird my mother had made, a pressed flower from my grandmother's funeral, the physical remnants of a life. I was nearly finished when I heard the soft knock. "Alara? Are you in there?" Sarah, the baker's daughter, one of the few people in the village who'd always been kind to me. We'd never been close. Her mother had made sure of that, worried about my reputation. But she'd always offered smiles when others offered only suspicion. I opened the door. She stood there with a basket covered in cloth, her round face anxious. "I heard what happened," she said quickly. "What they did. Making you leave like that, it's not right, Alara. You've only ever helped us. It's complicated, I said gently. Is it true? About the mark? About the Shadowborn King? I pulled back my sleeve, showing her the silver symbol. Her eyes widened, but I didn't see fear there. Only wonder. It's true, I said. I saved him and his siblings from iron traps. He claimed me as his mate, and tonight I'm leaving with him. Permanently. Are you afraid? I thought about that. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I should be, but I'm not. I feel like I'm finally going home. Sarah smiled, though her eyes were sad. I brought you something. She lifted the cloth from her basket, revealing fresh bread, cheese, dried meat, and a small jar of honey. For your journey, wherever you're going. My throat tightened. Thank you. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She reached out and squeezed my hand. Be happy, Alara. Whatever he is, I hope he deserves you. He's a king, I said softly. Powerful, dangerous, ancient. But when he looks at me, I feel like I'm seeing the truth of who I've always been. Like I've been asleep my whole life, and he's finally waking me up. Then go to him. Sarah pulled me into a quick, fierce hug. And don't look back. I held her for a moment, memorizing the comfort of it. Then I let go. There was only one more person I needed to see. I found Father Donovan in the church, kneeling before the altar. He didn't turn when I entered, but I knew he heard me. The old boards creaked under my new boots. I'm leaving, I said to his back. Tonight. I wanted you to know that I don't blame you. You were trying to protect your flock. I understand that. Do you? He stood slowly, turning to face me. He looked older than I remembered, as if the last 2 weeks had aged him years. Do you truly understand what I was protecting them from, child? Not just the shifters, not just their king, but what you might become if you join them. The old magic changes people, corrupts them, turns them into something other than what God intended. Or maybe it reveals what they always were, I countered quietly. Did you ever consider that? My grandmother had the gift. She could heal with a touch, speak to animals, see things before they happened. Was she corrupted? Evil? Monstrous? Your grandmother, he said heavily, walked a dangerous line. I warned her many times, but she stayed here, stayed human, used her gifts in service of our people. You're choosing to go into the darkness completely, to become one of them. That's different, is it? Or is it just more honest? We stood in silence for a moment, the morning light streaming through the stained glass windows painting us in colors. Red and gold and blue. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you wanted me to be, I said finally. The dutiful village healer who never questioned, never wanted more, never felt the call of something wilder. But I can't live half a life anymore, not when I've tasted what it means to be whole. Father Donovan's expression softened slightly. Then I'll pray for you, child. Pray that you find what you're seeking in the thornwood, and pray that it doesn't destroy you. Thank you, Father. I left the church and didn't look back. By the time I reached the forest edge, the sun was high overhead. Thane and Sarah were waiting, along with someone new, a woman with dark skin and intricate braids woven with silver threads, her eyes a startling violet. This is Lyric, Sarah introduced. She's our pack's healer and seer. She wanted to meet you. Lyric studied me with an intensity that made me feel transparent. Then she smiled, and her whole face transformed. So you're the one who's got our king tied in knots. I can see why. Your aura is fascinating. Half human, half something else entirely. The blood runs true in you. What blood? Shifter blood. Distant but undeniable. Your great-great-grandmother, most likely. She would have hidden it, suppressed it, lived as human. But the gift never truly dies. It just sleeps, waiting for the right moment to wake. Lyric stepped closer, placing her hand over my heart. And you, little sister, are about to wake up completely. Will it hurt? Yes, she said honestly. The first shift always does. Your bones will break and reform. Your senses will explode into overwhelming clarity. You'll feel like you're dying. But on the other side, freedom like you've never known. Power. Speed. The ability to run forever under the moon and never tire. I thought about that. About pain and transformation and becoming something new. When? I asked. Tonight, Thane said quietly. The moon isn't full, but it's strong enough. And Kale can't wait any longer. None of us can. Your presence is already affecting the pack bonds. Everyone can feel you through him. Like a ghost limb we can't quite touch. We need you to complete the circle. Then tonight, I agreed. We walked deeper into the thornwood, following paths that twisted and turned until I lost all sense of direction. The trees grew larger here, older, their trunks wider than houses and their canopies blotting out the sun. The air hummed with magic so thick I could taste it. Honey and copper and wild green things. And then we emerged into a clearing that stole my breath. A palace rose before me, but not made of stone or wood. It was grown, trees shaped and woven together into soaring towers and elegant archways, their bark silver as moonlight, their leaves gleaming gold and crimson. Waterfalls cascaded from impossible heights, creating rainbows in the mist. And everywhere I saw them, shifters, some in human form, some as wolves, some caught in between, beautiful and terrible and utterly magnificent. They moved through the palace grounds with liquid grace, and every single one stopped to stare as I passed. The king's mate, I heard someone whisper. She's real, another breathed. Look at her mark. It's genuine, a true soul bond. Their attention felt like physical weight, but I kept my spine straight, my head high. I might be new to this world, but I wouldn't enter it as a victim or a prize. I'd enter it as Kale's equal, or not at all. The palace doors opened before us, massive things carved with scenes of wolves running beneath starlight. And there, in the entrance hall that rose 3 stories high, stood Kale. He wore black leather and a cloak of midnight fur, a crown of twisted thorns and silver resting on his dark hair. He looked every inch the king, powerful, dangerous, absolutely in command, but his eyes when they found me were soft, vulnerable, hungry, Alyra. Just my name, but the way he said it made my heart stutter. I walked toward him, aware of hundreds of eyes watching, aware that this moment mattered. When I reached him, I didn't bow or curtsy. Instead, I held out my hand. I'm here, I said simply. As promised. Teach me, show me, help me become what I'm meant to be. He took my hand, and the connection between us flared brilliant and binding. I'll show you everything, he promised. But first, there's something you need to understand. Tonight, when you shift for the first time, the pain will be terrible. You'll want to give up, want it to stop. And there's only one thing that will ease the transition. Only one thing that will make the transformation bearable, instead of agonizing. What? His thumb traced the mark on my wrist. Me, my presence, my touch. We need to complete the soul bond before you shift, Alyra. It's the only way to protect you from the worst of the pain. I understood what he was saying, what he was asking, and completing the bond means joining, fully, in every way. His voice dropped to a rough whisper. I need you to be sure, because once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be mine and I'll be yours, bound across lifetimes. Even death won't separate us. I thought about my old life, already fading like a half-remembered dream. I thought about the village that cast me out. I thought about the loneliness that had haunted me for 23 years. And then I thought about this. Standing in a palace of living trees, my hand in a king's, surrounded by people who looked at me not with fear but with hope, with welcome, with family. I'm sure, I said. Kale's eyes blazed gold. Then come with me, little healer. Let me show you what it means to be loved by a king. He led me through corridors of silver wood and golden leaves, upstairs that spiraled like DNA strands, until we reached a chamber at the palace's highest point. The walls were glass and moonstone, offering views of the endless forest below. A bed dominated the space, draped in furs and silks, and everywhere were flowers I'd only seen in dreams. Night-blooming jasmine and silver roses, their scent intoxicating. Kale closed the door, and we were alone. I've waited 200 years for you, he said softly. I'd stopped believing you existed, stopped hoping, and then you appeared in that clearing, covered in blood, offering salvation without asking for anything in return. You destroyed me that night, Alara, shattered every wall I'd built around my heart. Do you understand what that means? What you mean? I stepped closer, placing my hand over his heart. I could feel it racing, fast as my own. Show me, I whispered. Chapter 6, The Soul Bond. What happened in that chamber was sacred, private, a joining not just of bodies but of souls, two halves finally becoming whole. Kyle loved me with a reverence that brought tears to my eyes, worshipping every inch of skin as if I were something holy. His hands were gentle despite their strength, his mouth patient, despite the hunger I felt burning through our bond. Tell me if I hurt you, he murmured against my throat. You won't. I might. I'm trying to be careful, but you're God's, Alara. You're perfect. And mine. Finally mine. When we joined, the mark on my wrist erupted in silver fire. I gasped as power surged through me, wild and primal and utterly transformative. I could feel him, not just physically, but completely. Every thought, every emotion, every sensation flooding through him was suddenly flooding through me as well. His love hit me like a tidal wave. Fierce and possessive and tender all at once. He'd been alone for so long, carrying the weight of his crown and his people with no one to share the burden. And now he had me, his mate, his queen, his everything. I love you, I gasped out, the words torn from someplace deep and true. Kale, I love you. He groaned, his movements becoming more desperate, more demanding. Say it again. I love you. I love you. The bond snapped into place. Light exploded behind my eyes, and suddenly I wasn't just myself anymore. I was us. Two souls braided together so tightly they could never be unwound. I felt everything he felt, knew everything he knew. 200 years of memories crashed over me. Battles and losses, triumphs and sorrows, the terrible loneliness of immortality. And threaded through it all like a golden thread was me. He'd been dreaming of me for years without knowing it. Seeing my face in crowds, hearing my laugh in the wind, searching for something he couldn't name. Fate had been pulling us together all along. We collapsed together, breathing hard, skin slick with sweat and magic. Kale gathered me against his chest, and I could hear his heart thundering. Mine, he whispered. My mate, my queen, my everything, yours, I agreed. Always yours. We lay tangled together as the sun set beyond the crystal walls, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. I could feel the moon rising, could sense its pull even though I couldn't see it yet. It's almost time, Kyle said quietly. Can you feel it? The call? I could. My skin felt too tight, my bones aching in a way that was both painful and strangely pleasurable. Something inside me was waking up. Something that had slept for generations. I'm afraid, I admitted. I know, but I'll be with you every moment. And now that we're bonded, you'll have my strength to draw on. The shift will still hurt, but it won't break you. I won't let it. He helped me dress in soft clothes that would tear away easily, then led me down to the palace grounds. The entire pack was waiting. Hundreds of shifters in a massive circle around a central clearing. When they saw us, they began to howl, a haunting symphony that raised every hair on my body. Sarah and Thane approached, both of them grinning. Ready to join the family officially? Sarah asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. It's going to hurt like 7 hells, Thane warned. But on the other side, you'll be one of us. Truly, completely. Kyle led me to the center of the clearing. The moon was rising now, massive and silver, not quite full but powerful enough to make my skin prickle with energy. Every shifter in the circle had their eyes fixed on the sky, waiting. When the moon clears the tree line, Kale said, you'll feel it. Don't fight the change. Let it take you. Let yourself break apart and reform. I'll be right here. I won't leave you. Promise? On my life, my crown, and my soul. He pressed his forehead to mine. I love you, Alara Thorn. Soon to be Alara Shadowborn. You're the bravest person I've ever known." The moon cleared the trees. Pain hit me like lightning. My bones began to crack, and I screamed, a sound that shifted midway to something animal. My spine arched impossibly, vertebrae popping and reforming. My hands twisted, fingers shortening, nails becoming claws. Fur erupted across my skin in silver-white waves. I was dying. Had to be dying. Nothing could hurt this much and not be death. But then I felt him. Kale's presence through our bond, steady and strong, pouring his power into me like a lifeline. His voice in my head, calm and sure. "Breathe, love. Just breathe. You're not dying. You're being reborn. Let it happen. Let yourself become." So I did. I stopped fighting and surrendered to the transformation. Let my human form shatter and my true self emerge. The pain peaked, became unbearable, and then released. I stood on 4 legs instead of 2, the world suddenly sharp and vivid in ways I'd never imagined. I could smell everything. The individual scents of hundreds of shifters, the sap running through the palace trees, prey animals hiding in the underbrush miles away. I could hear heartbeats and whispered conversations and the rustle of leaves that hadn't even fallen yet. And I could see in perfect clarity, even in the darkness. A massive black wolf approached me, Kyle. He touched his nose to mine, and joy flooded through our bond. "Beautiful," his voice echoed in my mind. "You're absolutely beautiful." I looked down at myself and saw silver-white fur, identical to Thane's but with subtle gold undertones that caught the moonlight. I was smaller than Kale, but still large for a wolf, built for speed and grace rather than pure power. "How do I look?" I asked, marveling that I could speak this way, mind to mind. Like moonlight given form, like a dream made real, like my queen. The pack began to howl again, this time in celebration. Sarah bounded over in her auburn wolf form, playfully nipping at my ears. Thane joined us, and suddenly we were running, all 4 of us racing through the forest at speeds that should have been impossible. The wind sang through my fur. The ground flew beneath my paws. I'd never felt so free, so powerful, so utterly and completely alive. We ran for hours, the pack spreading out around us in a massive hunting party. We brought down an elk together, and I tasted fresh blood for the first time, hot and rich and satisfying in ways that human food had never been. This was pack. This was family. This was home. When we finally returned to the palace grounds, I was exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure. Kale showed me how to shift back, how to find my human form and pull it on like a familiar coat. The transformation back was easier, almost gentle. In moments I stood on 2 legs again, naked and laughing and more alive than I'd ever been. Kyle pulled me into his arms. "How do you feel?" "Complete," I said honestly. "For the first time in my entire life, I feel complete." "Good." He kissed me, deep and claiming. "Because tomorrow we hold the coronation ceremony. Tomorrow I crown you as my queen before all the packs. Tomorrow we announce to the entire shifter world that the Shadowborn King has found his mate. And tonight," his smile turned wicked, "tonight I take my mate back to our chambers and celebrate properly, again and again, until the sun rises and we're both too exhausted to move." "That sounds perfect," I whispered. And it was. Epilogue: The Queen of Shadows. 3 months later, I stood on the palace balcony watching the sun set over the thornwood. I wore a gown of midnight silk, a crown of silver thorns resting on my hair, and the mark on my wrist gleamed with power I'd only begun to understand. I was Queen Alara Shadowborn now, mate to the High King, leader of the healing houses, voice of mercy in a court that had known too much violence, and I'd never been happier. "Your Majesty?" Lyric approached, bowing slightly. "The delegation from the Eastern Pax has arrived. They wish to discuss the treaty." "Tell them I'll meet with them after dinner," I said. "And Lyric? How many times do I have to say you don't need to bow to me?" She grinned. "At least 1,000 more, I think. I'm enjoying watching you squirm with the formality." I laughed and went back to watching the sunset. So much had changed in such a short time. I'd gone from village healer to shifter queen. From lonely outsider to the heart of a massive pack. From human to something far more. And through it all, Kale had been beside me. Teaching me. Supporting me. Loving me with an intensity that still took my breath away. I felt him before I heard him. Our bond always alerting me to his presence. Strong arms wrapped around my waist from behind, and his lips found my neck. "What are you thinking about, little healer?" "How strange fate is," I said, leaning back against his chest. 3 months ago I was gathering herbs in the forest. If I'd chosen a different path that night, if I'd run instead of stopping to investigate. "But you didn't run," he murmured. "You never run. That's one of the things I love most about you. Your courage. Your compassion. The way you see monsters and choose to save them anyway." "You're not a monster." "I was," he said quietly. "Before you, I'd grown cold. Hard. I ruled through fear because I'd forgotten how to hope. But you reminded me. You saved me in every way a person can be saved." I turned in his arms, reaching up to cup his face. "We saved each other." "Yes," he agreed. "We did." The moon was rising now, full and bright, calling to the wolf inside me. I felt the familiar stirring, the desire to shift and run. "Hunt with me?" I asked. His eyes gleamed gold. "Always." We shifted together, our wolves emerging in perfect synchronization. Black and silver-white, shadow and moonlight, 2 halves of one whole. Then we leaped from the balcony, landing gracefully on the grounds below, and ran into the forest that had brought us together. The pack joined us as we ran. Dozens of wolves flowing through the trees like a river of fur and fang. This was my family now, my people, my home, and at the center of it all was Kale. My mate, my king, my everything. I'd thought I was saving 3 wolves that night in the forest. I'd had no idea I was saving myself. They say the forest remembers everything. Every choice. Every kindness. Every moment that changes the course of destiny. The Thornwood remembered the night I saved 3 wolves who were not wolves at all. It remembered the blood I shed, the mercy I showed, the courage I claimed. And it blessed me with a love that would span centuries. I am Alara Shadowborn, queen of the Thornborn realm, mate to the Shadow King. I walk between 2 worlds, human and shifter, healer and warrior, shadow and light. And I would not change a single moment of the journey that brought me here, because sometimes the greatest magic isn't in the transformation itself. It's in choosing to be brave enough to transform it all. This is my story, my truth, my forever, and it's only just beginning. The end.